Hello, and thank you so much for stopping by this video. This is the first in my start to finish series where I show the start to finish process of making one of my hand woven items. Here you actually see me wearing the unfinished version of a Walk in the Woods infinity scarf. I hadn't threaded in any of the ends, I hadn't sewn it, which is why it looks a little bit scruff. What I'm doing here is getting what's called the warp of the fabric all wound up. What I'm doing is pretty much just putting in place each of the threads that's going to create the foundation of the fabric. And I'm putting them in a certain order to get the pattern that I want. And that's, as you can see right here, is what I ended up with. When I braid these all up, I can save them in the particular order that I want. So when I put them onto the loom, I keep everything as it was originally organized. This method that I'm using is called indirect warping. I really prefer this method as I feel that it's a little bit faster. I can get a longer warp to make more fabric, and it's also a lot easier on my back. This whole process takes several hours. If I'm doing a yard or two, it can take 3 to 5 hours. Well, actually, maybe 2 or 3 hours, depending on the width of the project. Now that I've gotten everything through the reed, I have to thread it properly. There's holes and there's slots that each of these threads have to go through. So I have to do that as well before getting started on the actual weaving. And that's one of the parts that takes the longest, particularly if I'm doing a really complicated project, a complicated design. Here I'm just doing a balanced weave, so I don't remember how long this one took, but if it's simple like this, it might only take 2 or 3 hours. If it's longer, it can take up to 5. So now I'm getting ready to actually weave. I was trying out this area in my apartment to do my weaving. I don't like it. It's a little too cramped over here, so I went back to my little art desk on the other in the hallway. As you can see, the piece that I was using to actually put that yarn through, that's called the shuttle. And it's quite long. It's about 30 inches long. My whole loom is 32 inches wide, and it can make up to a 30 inch wide project. So this little space over here was just a little bit too small. This is the pace at which I weave. Weaving takes a really long time. If you have a floor loom, this one right here, it's called a rigid heddled loom. It's portable. It's a lot smaller than, say, a table loom or a floor loom, which are those really big ones that you use your feet to control. The reed that I'm using right there that I just pulled forward. Well, you don't really use your feet to control the reed, but you use it to control the sheds and stuff. So as you can see, the fabric is building up. It takes a really long time. Several hours, even for just 1 yard of fabric. And I like to do this every now and then as I'm weaving to kind of test the tension of my threads there. Make sure that the project is still gonna come out okay. That's what helps me keep the straight line. That's what helps me get the shuttle through. Yeah. And every now and then it gets a little bit tangled on itself, so I have to go in and untangle it, but it's not too much. The yellow thread that you see there, that just helped me to spread the threads enough that I could comfortably get the shuttle through. And that it would actually be, everything would be spread out properly so the fabric can actually lay flat and, so it can actually lay the way that it's supposed to rather than being all bunched up or having gaps in it. So now, excuse me, you can probably hear my dog drinking water. Once I got the fabric off of the loom, I wash and dry it to completely finish it, and then before I start to sew, I skipped a couple of steps on camera here, but you can see the half of the fabric there hanging up in the background. But yeah, before you go to sew, I put the interfacing there in the middle, and then I'm actually using upcycled bed sheets that I thrifted, and I really liked the way the color matched this fabric. And so I'm just ironing it all together so it can lay as flat as possible before I go to sew it all together. Excuse the little bit of shaky cam action we've got going on. Not much I can do about that. My camera's sitting on the table that I sew, that I used to sew. So, but yeah, and you can see the process of sewing this all up. It takes a couple of hours. Man, I wish I could remember how long this project took. If I do a project like this, if I go about a yard and, with the sewing, the weaving, the threading, the setup, everything will usually take about 10 hours per piece. That's roughly. And that's what the finished piece looks like after sewing. And then here's all the upcycled sheets, and there's actually a curtain, that brown fabric there, that's an upcycled, that's a curtain that will be upcycled, depending on the project. But I was just here looking at the different colors that I had and trying to determine which one I actually liked, measuring everything out. And now I'm sewing on the actual covers that are going to cover the book cover, the cover and the pages, to keep it nice and snug. My inspiration for this was, I like to annotate a lot when I read any books. I'm not a huge fiction reader. I'm very much a nonfiction reader. I like to read about history, I like to read about ecology, I love to read philosophy, and so a lot of my reading consists of me writing in the margins, highlighting, all that stuff, and I got really annoyed with constantly digging into the bottom of my purse, into the bottom of my backpack, searching for where my stuff was. Where's my highlighter? Where's my pen? I'm getting annoyed trying to find it all. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put a pocket on my book. I'm just gonna make the process easier for myself and just give my book its own little purse. And that way, I don't have to carry extra stuff with me if I want to go read at the park or something like that. I can just have it right there on my book. So I hope that you appreciate this as much as I do. I'm really excited about this. And to finish off this video, I'm just going to read a little bit about commodities from Karl Marx. The wealth of those societies in which the capitalist mode of production prevails presents itself as, quote, an immense accumulation of commodities, end quote, its unit being a single commodity. Our investigation must therefore begin with the analysis of a commodity. A commodity is, in the first place, an object outside us, a thing that by its properties satisfies human wants of some sort or another. The nature of such wants, whether, for instance, they spring from the stomach or from fancy, makes no difference. Neither are we here concerned to know how the object satisfies these wants, whether directly as means of substance or indirectly as means of production. Every useful thing, as iron, paper, etc., may be looked at from the 2 points of view of quality and quantity. It is an assemblage of many properties, and may therefore be of use in various ways. To discover the various uses of things is the work of history. So also is the establishment of socially recognized standards of measure for the quantities of these useful objects. The diversity of these measures has its origin partly in the diverse nature of the objects to be measured, partly in convention. The utility of a thing makes it a use value, but this utility is not a thing of air. Being limited by the physical properties of the commodity, it has no existence apart from its is a material thing, a use value, something useful. This property of a commodity is independent of the amount of labor required to appropriate its useful qualities. When treating of use value, we always assume to be dealing with the definite quantities, such as dozens of watches, yards of linen, or tons of iron. In my case here, that would be yards of cotton. The use values of commodities furnish the material for a special study, that of commercial knowledge of commodities. Use values become a reality only by use or consumption. They also constitute the substance of all wealth, whether may be the social form of that wealth. In the form of society we are about to consider, they are, in addition, the material depositories of exchange value. In my case here, use value is what you're seeing right here. The ability to put my books and my highlighters and my pens in this item. Exchange value at first sight presents itself as a quantitative relation, as the proportion in which values in use of one sort are exchanged for those of another sort, a relation constantly changing with time and place. Hence, exchange value appears to be something accidental and purely relative, and consequently an intrinsic value, i.e., an exchange value that is inseparably connected with, inherent in commodities, seems a contradiction in terms. Let us consider the matter a little more closely. We'll continue reading that in our next start to finish video. But on exchange value, I can end with the fact that, as he says, this relation is changing constantly with time and place. With time, you can think about inflation, which is what we're dealing with now pretty severely. And with place, different currencies, different countries, maybe also different costs of living, even if you're in the same country. And obviously that exchange is an exchange of money for the amount of labor and materials that I put into this item. But money isn't exactly capital itself. And that's something that we're going to learn as we continue to go forward. So thank you so much for watching this video, for listening to my reading, for being interested in my weaving, and I hope you have a wonderful day.